everybody, I'm Jessie the Lookout, and today we're doing a Quickie comics review, and I'm going to be talking about Loki, Agent of Asgard, issues 8, 9, and 10. So I wanted to try something a little bit different, whereas instead of talking about, say, my comic pull for that week, or discussing an entire volume of comics, I kind of wanted to go through and talk about, say, individual issues or mini arcs for different comic series. So the first series that I wanted to talk about in this kind of new Quickie, less editing, more content kind of format was Loki. This is a comic series that's been out for a little while. It's got 10 issues out so far. So far I've really liked it. You can see me talking about it in some of my other comic polls that I'll put somewhere around here. So this is actually 3 issues of a 5-issue mini arc. The first 2 you don't really need to read all that much, but if you're just hopping onto the bandwagon now with Loki issue 11, that's you'd actually be in an okay place, because we've kind of had some introduction stuff and some basic table setting before now, but as we get into 8, 9, and 10, we kind of can see the climax, or like a mini climax of where Loki's journey to become a better person. Let's get right to it. So between issue 7 and 8, we had an Axis plot thing happening in the Marvel comic universe that isn't really super discussed in these issues. I can't really say what it's about other than that Red Skull messed up some shit, and now everybody who is good is evil, and everybody who's evil is good now, and that includes Loki, who is now a good person, like in his core. He's not just trying to be a good person, he's actually now a good person. He is a true agent of Axis and Justice, and he's shacked up with Enchantress so that they can hang out and do good together. Which apparently also means not hanging out with mortals like Verity anymore, even though she's been his closest friend and ally up until now. He dismisses her like the fact that she's mortal should be reason enough for her to understand why they can't hang out anymore. She's mortal, he's not. It's the oil and water, right? While Loki is doing good and being really high and mighty about himself, there's a real problem. Future Loki is still watching him, and King Loki hasn't changed at all, despite current Loki's insistence that he has. So Loki decides to go off and do some good deeds, and one of them includes confronting Thor. While the Axis problems may have changed Loki for good, it's done the exact opposite in Thor. Issue 8 wraps up pretty quickly with Verity drunkenly calling Lorelei, the Enchantress's sister, as Lorelei and her new boy toy Sigurd are robbing a bank. Since, you know, I guess they were good before and now they're thieves. Best page in the whole issue? Loki turns into a unicorn. Because why not? So between issues 8 and 9, we get Axis number 6, which I personally didn't read, but Loki conveniently summarizes that up for me. He lost the battle against Thor, but Spider-Man showed up to rescue him and took him to the Avengers Mansion. Here is an array of former villains who, thanks to the wibbly-wobbly, timey crap of Axis, are good now. And I guess together they're gonna try and stop the apocalypse? See, this is why people don't like superhero comic books. The crossovers are really confusing, and things happen between the issues in series that I'm not gonna read. And I need details to understand this plot that this comic isn't gonna give me. You wouldn't see Sandman doing a crossover like this, or Rat Queens, or Saga. They're complete. They might appear in other comics, but you don't need to read those other comics to understand what you're reading in front of you. Plot-dependent crossovers are something that I've only ever seen in superhero comics, and they are my least favorite thing about all comics. I hate them even more than I hate missed release dates. So without any details about this Axis or Sixes plot that's going on, the whole good turning into evil thing is really cheap to me. It's really simplistic, and I don't like the idea that evil is something that's inside of us and not something that we do. Loki and the other gods are the only type of beings that I could see being trapped by this kind of idea, because their very existence isn't the same as mortals. But the entire point of being human is that we get a choice in what we do and a say in who we are. The Axis plot is implying that these things are inherent about us and that we don't get a choice in it, and I don't like it. Okay, rant over. Magical girl Loki. Loki and Enchantress have about 15 minutes until showtime, so Enchantress wants to say goodbye to her sister before the impending apocalypse, which has no tension whatsoever. Sigurd, even though he's a hero, is being a real badass right up until Enchantress uses his love for Lorelei to subdue him. Loki and Amora take Bonnie and Clyde to Asgard for punishment. Odin, without even blinking, turns their souls into eggs, which are then to be sealed in caskets of bone and silver and buried under the roots of a dead tree on the Isle of Silence, so that they may grow apart until the skies fall and everything ends. Fucking metal. Loki doesn't necessarily question his father's judgment, but he knows the punishment does not fit the crime. Odin sees the change happening in Loki, but without humility, Loki can change all he wants, but he will never grow. Loki booty! So Loki gets himself a plan. Thor has become unworthy of carrying Mjolnir since his transformation, and has since left it on the moon. During the apocalypse fight, which by the way is only a page, some apocalypse, Loki leads Thor away in an attempt to keep a bloodbath from happening. If Thor catches him, he's dead, so he only has one chance at defeating his brother. As proof that Loki has changed and that he is truly good now, he wields Mjolnir, Hammer of the Gods. Loki knows who he is, regardless of the spell that's been cast over him. He uses this to make himself stronger, accepting his faults and making them a part of him instead of trying to ignore them and change them. He uses them to make him stronger. That is humility, and that is the strength of Loki's convictions. Pew! See ya, Thor! But what's that? Team Red Skull is bailing on the Axis plan, or something in which I will never see the finer details and to further my understanding what the fuck is going on. Shit. Unfortunately for Loki, the change in him was more magic than substance, and the crime of murdering himself will never be forgotten. Oh, good try though, Loki. Poor hot, eternally damned Loki. Oh. The last issue I'm going to talk to you about today is filled with feeling. And apologies. Loki opens the issue by apologizing to Verity and asking for her to be his friend again, which of course she does. He starts by cooking up a plan to save Lorelei and Sigurd. While he's explaining to her about wielding the God Hammer, Thor shows up. He is also clearly bummed about the events that happened, which resulted in him losing Mjolnir to somebody else and shaming him into giving up the name of Thor. He just calls himself Odin's son now. Loki tries to explain that they could be better for this. Odin's son, instead of being the hero that Asgard needs, can be the hero that he wants. And Loki wants to give up his lies and mischief. Odin's son asks where his more carefree brother went, and Loki reveals his greatest sin. In the history of Loki, there have been 3 Lokis. First is the god of lies and villainy, cursed to be what he is until the day he died. So he died, and was reborn as a carefree kid, free to make his own choices. So Kid Loki chooses to keep the ghost of his former self around to help advise him, since he was so good at being Loki the first time around. Old Loki found a way to invade the child's body, and then cast his soul into the abyss. This third Loki was cursed by the dying child. He will be the crime that will not be forgiven. Third Loki played the part of the fun-loving child despite his need to be his big bad self again. But as he spent time in the child's body and transformed into his super hot self, he found himself wanting the same choices that the kid had. He wanted the ability to change and be who he wanted to be. He didn't want to be his version 1 self, the king of lies and mischief. So he chose to become the agent of Asgard. This news sends Odin's son into a rage. He loved and cared for his brother, and what stands before him is his murderer. Odin's son breaks Loki's sword of truth and drags his butt back to Asgard for punishment. How convenient now that he's in Asgard and can then proceed to save Lorelei and Sigurd from their punishment. But I'm just speculating. Look how sad and cute he is! Love me, Thor. I just need to be loved. Didn't you see the Tom Hiddleston interviews? I just need a hug. Okay, so I actually really like this series. Even though I really hate crossovers, and the last 4 or 5 issues of this have been really crossover heavy, this series did not suffer anywhere near as bad as, say, like Teen Titans during the Death of the Family arc. That was a fucking disaster. This you can more or less read and get the gist of what's going on without having to go read the Axis plots to fill in the details. The feelings are there, the characters are there. It tries really hard to exist without you knowing exactly what's going on in Axis, which I guess that's a solid attempt. The covers for these 2 issues I actually thought were kind of cute. You know, like while Loki is trying to be the hero, his covers are kind of like traditionally like superhero splash pages with like the font and text and like the dramatic poses and stuff. They all revert back to the normal artsy covers like after this, but I thought for these 2 issues it was a pretty nice touch. Verity is pretty cute, but I'm not sure she has much of a personality beyond being a human lie detector. She didn't really do anything these last couple issues. It means that Her lie detector status kind of means that she has a low tolerance for bullshit, but I mean, that means for me that she either has to be like really sarcastic or really deadpan or like really jaded or something. I don't know, something that stands out as a real personality trait. Right now, she is more or less an audience insert. And I think that she has a lot more potential than that. Like, I believe that she has the capability of being a really good character. It's just that we're 10 issues in and I don't really know her that well. She doesn't really seem that interesting to me, unfortunately. If you're the kind of fan who's into Loki's more redeemable side, then like this series is going to be really good for you. The first volume, which is currently out in trade paperback, it is the first 5 issues. That's more of like the tricksy side of Loki, but now we're about waist deep in Loki angst, which admittedly is why I'm here. So that's more or less my Quickie review of Loki 8, 9, and 10. I've had this comic on my subscriptions list since it came out, and there's never really been an issue that's made me regret that. You know, like where we are right now, like I'm excited to see where this could go. Like I want to know what's going to happen to Loki, because like obviously he's going to continue to be a player in the Marvel Universe, so I want to see what they're going to do with him and like where he's going to go. I like this guy. He's trying really hard. He's trying, and I respect that. If you want to see more stuff that I do, you can check out my top 10 comics of 2014, or you can check out my Trillium review over here. I worked really hard on it. It was one of my first long format types of reviews, so if you want to check it out and let me know what you think, go right ahead and do that. Or if you want to check out my channel where I also do outfits of the week, I also do unboxings and drawing streams and vlogs and, you know, whatever suits my fans. Let me know what you thought of this format, you know, like it's a bit quicker and a bit rougher, but I wanted to be able to put out more comic stuff that wasn't just me talking about individual issues. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and like, you know, whether or not I should do more like these, or whether or not you just weren't a fan of them, or like, whatever. You know, I want to hear what you think. Go ahead. So, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, you can go ahead and hit that like button, and I'll see you guys next time.